Geordi takes the Enterprise to the upper line system. Riker thinks violent eruptions are awesome. And Sobe says, bye, Felicium. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise Crosby.
Woo!
Hello.
Hi, kids.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 21, Symbiosis, story by Robert Lewin, teleplay by Robert Lewin, and Richard Manning and Hans Beimler. Why did I say "and" twice in there? We'll find out later. Directed by Win Phelps. This was April 16th, 1988. And special thanks to Grandpa One, a.k.a. Tim Baum, for sponsoring this entire season. We salute you, sir. How you guys doing today?
Doing great.
I'm saluting Grandpa. Good. Another gray, overcast, moody day in LA, but we're going to lift our spirits in spite of it.
It's beautiful
Win
over
Phelps.
here.
This is the first time we heard that name, huh? Win Phelps?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Makes
I
me
think
think
so,
of Michael
too.
Phelps.
It does. It makes
But
me
I don't
think
think-
of that, too.
Relation.
Yeah.
He's the winningest Phelps I know.
Exactly. That's what I thought about. Real quick. So the reason you would say teleplay by Robert Lewin and Richard Manning and Hans Beimler is because it says Robert Lewin and written out and Richard Manning ampersand Hans Beimler. And when you have the and, it means that they've written it separately or doing their own thing. And when they have the ampersand, it means they're a writing team. And so you would say Robert Lewin and Richard Manning and Hans Beimler because they're a writing team. Apparently, at least they were for this particular episode. Just a little piece of trivia there between the A and D or using the ampersand when we're talking writing credits.
Speaking of the Writers Guild, that's true.
Yes.
That's locked in. That's right there. You know, a little bit of negotiation and in solidarity.
Mm-hmm. So
that's a little knowledge there. It's good to know.
Oh, and also let's just jump into what you were telling us last week, Denise. We weren't recording at the time, but you told Cirroc and me that this was actually the last episode that you shot, even though Skin of Evil was the last one that aired. And the last scene that you shot, presumably, was this one behind me, in which you jump out from behind Picard's head to wave to the camera for the first and only time that Star Trek has ever broken the fourth wall.
Right?
Oh,
there it is. Can you see that?
I didn't even see it when it happened.
Oh no, that's that happens at 42 minutes and 15 seconds in. I stopped because again, I haven't seen it in all these years, and I was, just curious. People talk about it for so long. That being what I believed would be my very last frame in The Next Generation. Obviously, I came. Well, I'm not going to spoil it for people who haven't watched The Next Gen. If there's anybody living under a rock that hasn't seen
just
it,
me, just
tuning
me.
in, yeah,
just Cirroc.
There are more Cirroc. I'm going to say, I'm sure there are more of you out there. But anyway, that was a goodbye to the fans, and let's see, there I am.
Oh, you're literally waving straight to the camera.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Straight on. Broke the fourth wall.
And they allowed that? Nobody said...
Okay, so they said cut.
Okay.
And I mean, I totally thought... And then a cake came down and a celebration. And the producer showed up on the set to say, thank you. We wish you well and blah, blah, blah. And let's have some cake and celebrate your final shot. And then moving on. And I thought, well, wait a minute. They need to retake that shot.
So you did it just for the one take, right? I wanted to ask you about that. Did you guys do Did you do other takes, or you just shot it once?
That was just shot once.
Wow.
And
they didn't take it again.
And they didn't, and I wasn't going to say anything. I said, I'm not going to say anything. And thinking there's no way they can use this.
They're not going to use that.
There's no way. But either, and I would love to know the story behind the editing of this episode, because either they were forced to use it because they couldn't, it would be too big of a cut, a jump, and they didn't have any other to choose from.
Right.
Or they were in on it and just said, this is great and let's use it. But I doubt, I just think they were forced to use it.
Or maybe they didn't even notice, if that's possible.
I don't think they noticed. I don't think they noticed.
They might, well, come on, as an editor, you're watching over and over.
The editor should have noticed.
Yeah.
The editor should have noticed. But as the cameraman looking through the lens at the time, they're probably looking at the foreground, right?
Yes. They didn't, the director didn't even notice.
Right.
I mean, no one saw it.
That's hilarious.
But the editors had to have seen it, but they couldn't, they had no choice. They couldn't cut away.
Right.
Because I'm in the background.
You literally could have done a cartwheel back there.
I could have splashed them. Too bad I didn't unzip my suit and go.
Then they really would have kept it under their mattress.
They would have brought you back for season 2 if you had.
I'd have my own show. I would have had my own show.
Yeah.
That's a spinoff right there.
Tasha does Dallas, or something.
Yeah, it's really funny because a lot of people don't really notice it because it's kind of a blink and you miss it thing. And Picard and Beverly are having this intense moment. But since you told me about it, and since, there's kind of legend about it, I watched for it, but I only realized it right at the last second. I was like, oh, wait, this must be the scene. And right when I look, I see you jumping out. I was like, wow, how did I miss that? Because when you're looking for it, it seems so obvious because you do it quickly. You jump out and you say, hey.
Well, I want to give credit as well. Cirroc, you remember Richard Arnold, the legendary, he was Gene's.
We had him on the show just before he passed away.
Yeah,
so we could get some
many stories
out.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a walking, encyclopedia of Trek. So he was on the set that day, and he's the one who whispered in my ear, you should, do like a blooper, do a blooper, just they'll have to reshoot, but we'll have it. So he's the one who planted the seed. That was, not my idea. So then I just came up with, something like, hi guys, bye guys, see you. And that sort of is how that happened.
That guy's such a troublemaker.
Yeah. Trouble.
Well, they can blame it on the solar flares and the magnetic field causing your temperament to be.
Either that or Tasha was hitting up on the Felicium.
Well,
you seem to know quite a bit
speaking of that, let's get into that whole Tasha scene with the Felicium explanation.
Yeah.
When she's having that discussion with Crusher,
Wesley.
Just say no.
It was it seemed like she was almost reminiscing on her own experiencing or dabbling in some kinds of things like that. Did you get that sense?
Totally. I mean, what are you really saying, in this? I mean, she said, and again, I loved I loved that scene because it gives some insight into, again, where she comes from and just how messed up it was. And for her to understand, I mean, it was spoken by someone, it feels to me, that could only speak from experience.
Yeah.
Not observing, not someone observing that, oh, well, this is what happens when people do drugs. They want it more. And, it takes all the stuff away. It takes all the pain away. It dulls everything. I mean, she's talking about herself. So that's
I felt
interesting.
I felt the same way. Yeah. And, it was almost borderline kind of, the feeling was causing you to like almost enjoy it or recall the sensation of the euphoria when you were kind of drawing back on it and thinking of it and recalling it. I felt like there was still a part of you that sees the good of that experience, right? It's like, yeah, it makes you feel great, and there were good things that I got out of it. Like I did get the euphoria, I did get this sense of feeling invincible.
It helped her escape
or whatever.
the difficult times that she had on that crazy planet. Yeah,
but also to look at it this way, if you've ever talked to people in sobriety or recovery after, drug addiction, and really they're away from it long enough, they can speak of it with candor and with like no apologies. Like, oh no, it was when I was doing it, I loved doing it. But I knew I would be dead. I wouldn't be, I couldn't stand here and talk to you about it if I would have continued down that line. But it was so good. It was so much fun. I had a great time being high. And I did, but I'd be dead. So I got the sense that, that she cleaned her act up, obviously, to go, and maybe it was Starfleet that did it, or, the possibility of that, that she was, somebody took her under her, because you got to wonder, and this is the intriguing part about this particular character, because we do know she came from such a harsh failed Earth colony, Turkana 4, where rape gangs, and she's orphaned and had to make it on her own. How in the hell did she get to Starfleet?
Yeah. And the other thing I felt was, as smart as Wesley is, and when it comes to physics or chemistry or computers, he is a genius. But in certain elements, when it comes to a human lived experience of poverty and violence like that you had on your home planet, when you talk about the environment in which you have to survive and grow up, and this is something that's true for a lot of people in this world, they have to overcome their surroundings, the situations, gang violence, drugs, poverty. Criminality, poverty, and they have to overcome all of these things in their own daily grind to try to make something of themselves, to try to escape those conditions. And I felt like when you were making that distinction to Wesley, it was almost as if, Wesley, your privilege has allowed you to escape seeing this side of the conditions of humanity. You haven't seen and been exposed to this. But I'm telling you, Tasha Yar, that this was my lived experience. I grew up in this kind of underbelly of society and kind of in this forgotten, left alone people that are just left for a dangerous future. I had to find a way out of that, which you did. And maybe you say drugs can make you feel good, on top of the world, until it doesn't anymore. And now you just have to keep doing it to just feel normal. Right. And I think that's the distinction you also made as you went on to explain the story.
Right. Then you're doing it just to not feel bad. And, that is a wonderful choice the writers made. It was really subtle. It was really sort of subliminally put there that Tasha would be the one to kind of illuminate that for this kid who has no street smarts whatsoever, and hasn't, has been overly protected by his mother, and doesn't even have a sense of what drugs are about, just can't even make the leap. So it was really, because in partnership with that, again, I thought when they go to discuss the rest of, they don't want to bring the what are they called? Not the other, not the people from Brecca, the
Ornarans.
Yeah. They don't want to allow them on the bridge. So Picard says, we'll take the rest of it in my room. And I thought, again, there should be someone from security. They're dropping the breadcrumb that these people, we know they're addicts, and how do we behave around addicts? They can flip a switch at any given moment. They can be dangerous. So he takes the doctor and the first officer. But, and then we see the guy get Riker in that electric grip. And Tasha earlier had said, I have to know how to defend against that.
Which I like that scene. Yeah.
Right. She kind of drops that note and then doesn't go with them.
Follow up.
So there's a little bit of a disconnect. Obviously, she had to be there to deliver that speech to Wesley, but it could have been done maybe in another moment within the story, because she really, again, it doesn't make sense that she's not there.
I felt the same way, because when they first arrived on the ship and they fought each other with that electric grip thing that they were doing to each other, clearly they had some kind of power that we've never seen before, right?
Yeah.
So that to me is the first thing you have to notify the captain of. Like, the first thing that I'm going to go back and tell Picard, I'm going to say, listen, Captain, we beamed them aboard, but we ran into a slight problem. There was a fight over these goods that were beamed on, and we observed that they have this superhuman electricity type of power. I don't know what its effect on us would be, but I would suggest that we, quarantine them, or study more, or isolate them in their quarters until we learn more. Something that would notify Captain. And I felt
especially
that
not just that they have the ability, but they're also that they're violent people, like that they just sit there and start fighting each other. You got to put them in some kind of brig type thing just initially, just to be like, whoa, guys, we're not going to have this. You're a hazard here.
Especially for Tasha needs to figure out how to defend that, or what to, so them going off with the captain, with, these addicts who have that ability, makes absolutely
that the captain's not aware of at this moment. Neither is Beverly. Neither one of them know that they have this ability yet. Only Riker knows, and they didn't show him briefing anybody on their ability to do this.
Right. There's only that exchange with Tasha and Riker going down the hall. So we don't. I mean, I assume because Picard says something later like, "How are our quarrelsome guests?" So he obviously knows that they are not, that there's some beef between them. And I would imagine,
but more than quarreling would be, to me, the ability to have this electric shock
that's
ability.
like a superpower.
Yeah,
hello, that's a superpower. I mean, it's like, come on, and they both have it.
Right, both of them have it.
Yeah, we didn't get much explanation on that either. And Riker froze. Like, it didn't just zap him, like it froze him. He was just stuck Which was kind of funny because I'm like, how long can somebody sit there with his mouth open? Like, he's probably like, can we knock it out in this last take, please? I don't want to sit here forever.
Yeah.
No one wants to see that anymore, okay?
Yeah, that's the first thing I'm telling Captain is that they have this ability. Not only that, but I think that Dr. Crusher should be aware of it because it might have some pertinence to the conditions that they're suffering from.
No
I don't know
question.
I don't know what they're dying from, but it could be relative to this electric power that you are able to can do. I don't know.
Well, and also we're talking about this whole electromagnetic, like high intensity field we're in. What if, I mean, there's all this electromagnetic stuff going on all over the place. Does that affect them? Or can they tap into that? What if they tapped into that? They could just take over everything. It was like, wait a minute, we're throwing all this stuff out, but you got to connect the dots a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, though, I know we're picking apart some of the stuff, but, as a whole, just watching the episode, I was getting a really good feel for Next Generation's formula, which is it's starting to really feel easy. They're getting more handle on their storytelling. Usually around the 12 to 17 minute mark, I'm looking to see like, oh, is this story going to move on any farther or not? And they're doing a better job of putting certain twists and turns and keeping the interest in me as the viewer. So, for example, we discover the people, they have this ability, we see them fighting, and then the debate about who the property belongs to. That in itself was a good kind of moral dilemma in which I was saying to myself, okay, in a situation where goods were being exchanged and those goods, well, the ship gets blown up and half whatever I gave you got blown up, who would be in the right? I thought that was an actual good kind of argument kind of to put forward to me as the viewer, because I would start to contemplate who would be in the right in this situation, right? If it just based on face value of what they're telling me.
Right. And then you add the added layer of human suffering that's involved in the cargo. And, where are you on this side? What moral values do you now have, and the dilemma? And that is an interesting notion. Yeah, for sure. Just who gets who's, and again, you get to discuss the Prime Directive.
Right.
Really,
and I want to say Hans Beimler. I know, his writing is coming out to me because I see some of the similarities between how he did Deep Space Nine and what I'm watching here, as far as constantly escalating the stakes when you watch a show. And that's what he's doing when he presents us with the first, it's 6 people that need to get saved. Only 4 get saved. So boom, we're like, whoa, we just lost 2 people. You start off with a note. And then from there, you go on to the dispute over the goods. And then they raise the stakes even farther and make it about life or death for this civilization and for this planet. And even farther than that, about it being about drugs and all of that. So I think, to me, and I can't put my finger that is Hans Beimler himself, but certainly as I'm watching these last couple of episodes with his name on it, I'm seeing a formula of writing and a pattern develop in which I'm starting to lean back in the captain's chair as I watch the episode and say, okay, this is the Next Generation. I'm going to get a nice sci-fi story.
Yeah, he's definitely. I agree. You're seeing a nuanced depth that's starting to happen that is different than what we're seeing in the beginning once he comes on board.
Well, let's hop over to our break in just a second here. Actually, let's just do it right now. It's the perfect time. Everybody stick around. We got way more to talk about. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule.